Hi, my name is Hugo Martin. I'm a reporter at the Los Angeles Times. You'll have to excuse my appearance. I've been sort of self-quarantined for the past few weeks. Normally I look like this. Yeah. So anyways, I've been a journalist for more than 30 years, covering just about everything from politics to crime to transportation and travel. Right now I'm a business writer. Some of you probably have very simplistic ideas of what the life of a reporter is like. Maybe you think we simply find a story, report a story, it gets published, and then we celebrate the Pulitzer. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. In this discussion, I want to talk about a bunch of different issues that we do have to deal with as reporters, primarily ethics, conflict of interest, and finally I want to touch upon where the industry is today, how it's changed, and what sort of challenges we face today. So it occurs to me that a lot of people don't understand the basic ins and outs of being a journalist today. Now, I got this idea a few months back when I wrote a story about an attorney. Now, this attorney had a particular niche practice. He sued hotels when guests at the hotels got bit by bed bugs. That was his only practice. So I thought it was interesting. I wrote a story about it, and the day it published, he was so happy with the story that he sent me this. Yeah, that's a $250 Amazon gift card. Now, I guess he didn't understand that journalists cannot accept gifts of that size from their sources. They cannot accept gifts before writing the article or after writing the article. So clearly, a lot of people just don't know how it works. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Okay, the Code of Ethics and Business Conduct. It's a 28-page document, guidelines on an array of different rules that we must abide by at the Los Angeles Times. There's an abridged version online that's been posted for anyone to see. I'll just go through it and hit a couple of the most obvious ones. The Times does not pay sources for information. Some tabloids, some media outlets do pay for tips, pay for interviews. We do not. It's strictly forbidden. Journalists may not use their affiliation with the Times to resolve personal disputes or seek special treatment or personal benefits. You cannot wave your business card to get into a concert or a restaurant. Photographs and graphics must inform, not mislead. Any attempt to confuse readers or misrepresent visual information is prohibited. In photographing news, we do not stage or reenact events. We do not add color, create photo montages, or remove objects or flip images. We'll be discussing this a little further with an example. Conflict of interest. Staff members may not enter into business or financial relationships with their sources. Similarly, staff members may not cover individuals or institutions with which they have financial relationships. I cannot write about my dad's restaurant, my brother's auto shop, that sort of thing. Staff members may not engage in political advocacy as members of a campaign or an organization specifically concerned with political changes. I cannot join the ACLU, Greenpeace, NRA, any of those groups. Why? Inevitably, I'll get assigned to write about these groups, and I'll be conflicted, right? I'm a member and supporting their cause. How can I write an unbiased report on them? Gifts. Staff members are prohibited from accepting gifts from or giving gifts to news sources, potential news sources, or those who seek to influence coverage. Items of significant value, such as electronic equipment, rare books, and premium wines, must be returned. We get sources that send food and video games and movies and all sorts of things to the Times. If it's a perishable thing, we might give it to charity. If it's something of value, again, we might give that to charity as well, but we're strictly not allowed to keep those gifts. So these are just a few of the rules in the Code of Conduct, which we must abide by under penalty of no longer being a journalist. Okay, so we've got these regulations and guidelines, 28 pages worth. How do we enforce them? Well, this next example is something that happened quite a while ago, but it's pretty poignant. Brian Walski was a photographer for the Los Angeles Times, and he was sent out with a bunch of other reporters and photographers to cover the invasion of Iraq back in 2003. During the coverage, he submitted a photograph, which you will see here. Dramatic photograph that seemed to show a soldier telling civilians to get down because they were under fire. Turned out this was a composite photo. He had taken two different photos and merged them together, creating a third new photo of something that didn't actually happen that way. How did that get discovered? Well, there's a sharp-eyed photo editor from another newspaper who got the photo. Other publications could run our photos when we put them out on a service. And this photo editor magnified that photo by 600 times and saw there was some duplication in there. Well, when Brian Walski was confronted, he admitted that he made a composite of these two photos to create the third photo. And after he made a profuse apology, he was fired. He was no longer a photographer with the Los Angeles Times. So another way that conflicts and ethical violations come to light is through competitors. One example of that is the case of Stephen Glass. He used to be a reporter for New Republic, and he used to put out some pretty amazing stories. Some were so amazing that competitors, when they tried to match him, found that the facts just didn't seem to be there. His case was so famous that Hollywood even made a movie out of it called Shattered Glass. The third way that a lot of conflicts and ethical violations are found out are through readers. When you put something out there for 3-4 million readers, people are going to point out mistakes. Sometimes it's just grammatical errors, sometimes it's misspellings, and sometimes they'll just say, this is not right. And they'll make a call, they'll put in an email. Okay, so I think the point here is you could be a good writer, a good reporter, you could have good instincts for stories, but if you don't have a good sense of ethics and honesty, your sources are not going to talk to you, and the readers are not going to read your stories because they're not going to believe them. So that's key, I think, just as important as writing skills and reporting skills. Now let's talk a little bit about where we are today. And as you know, some of you who followed journalism for a while know, we've lost a lot of our advertising dollars to, Google and Twitter and Facebook and all these other websites. Advertisers want people to see their ads, and that's where they'll see them. So we in newspapers are fighting for that those last few pennies to keep operating. So it's important that we have a lot of good images, a lot of catchy headlines, a lot of interesting stories, but still key to it all is good ethics and a good reputation for honest reporting. I'll leave you all with a little quote from my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. He said, "I'm a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is to bring them the real facts." All right, thanks for listening.